Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more. Well, this episode is 3.5 years in the making, a very exciting one. So Shaun O'Gorman is jumping back on. We used to run a Facebook Live series together called Young Bull, Old Bull. And this was, 3.5+ years ago. And we're both coaches. I'm specifically in the men's space, Shaun in the leadership space, which is awesome. But we were having a phone call a couple of weeks before we jumped back on here for an episode, and we were just chatting about some things that we had similar beliefs about. And I thought it'd be awesome to get back on the show and have a bit of a yarn again. And what we discuss in this episode is creating clarity for your life, being a strong man, men's coaching, honoring commitment and being a man of your word, and so much more. So as a men's performance coach myself, I'm committed to having these conversations because I believe that they will provide perspective and understanding into what's really going on for men out there. And I'm 2 days post doing our 12-hour walk, which I'll do a podcast episode on with a few of the lads around our experiences with that. It was absolutely amazing, and we learned a lot about ourselves and also other members of our academy, which was brilliant. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that as well. It's not long until applications are open for the Strong Men of Value Academy. There is a wait list. So if you head over to the website, themanthatcanproject.com, and you jump onto the Strong Men of Value Academy page, you can read more about what's involved, how you can be a part of it, and also just leave your details there on the wait list so that when the application's open, you'll get an email allowing you to apply, so that way you can get to the front of that list, because as we speak about, it is hot in demand and the blokes are absolutely thriving after our 12-hour challenge and getting to meet more of the men. But as we've spoken about, you get your 12-week game plan. So the first 3 months of your time in the academy will kick off with a signature 12-week game plan, right? So then you get your weekly group coaching calls where you get to connect with the community, be held accountable, practice communication, talking about what's going well in your life, maybe areas that you're struggling with. Found by doing that, it really helps you gain a better understanding of what you want from your life and what needs to happen in order for you to be the man that you can be, okay? Plus so much more around building a strong mind and strong body. And I'm actually just on the website right now, and there's 7 days, 4 hours, 58 minutes until the next applications are live. So head over and get involved in that. That's enough from me. Let's dive into this incredible episode with Shaun. The Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering career-driven men to live more fulfilling lives. We are here to challenge your beliefs, redefine success, and talk about the important stuff in a relatable way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. My name's Lachlan Stuart. Let's get into it. We could technically say this has been 4 years in the making, this episode.
Technically.
So for the new listeners, we were just checking out, we've got Shaun O'Gorman back on. And Shaun, you haven't been on since 2018, but when I was scrolling through the catalog, we'd done a few in succession. We'd done Q&As together. We were doing, what were we calling it? Young Bull, Old Bull.
Young Bull, Old Bull. What's it? Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Which was a Facebook Live series, which was fun as.
A long time ago.
But we've both had a lot of interesting stuff happen along the way. But
for sure,
we whenever we touch base, we always have incredible conversations. We got a lot of mutual friends, and you're doing some great stuff with the Strong Life program.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Do you want to give everyone, first and foremost, if you want to go back and find out some more really cool stories from Shaun O and the book you've written, The Strong Companion and
Dark Companion. Close enough.
Strong Life and
Close enough.
Companion. But you're writing another book now.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to hear more about Shaun O'S story in depth, go back to episode 24 and 27. Around that, there's a few episodes so you can have some more great listening. Obviously, the sound quality wasn't as good. We were fumbling our way through, but
it's fine, mate.
Give everyone a quick recap on what's been going on in your world and who you are and all that sort of stuff, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, done. So very long story short, it was a plea. So I started the Strong Life Project about 10 years ago, which is strength, tenacity, resilience, optimism, nurturing, generosity. So they're the 6 principles that I go, if you live your life, you live a strong life. So since launching that 10 years ago, I've been doing it full-time for almost 5. So I do a lot of work with CEOs, business owners, a whole lot of different people. One of my passion projects is to work with police and military from my police background. But what I basically really want to get to with people is just take responsibility for yourself and get shit happening. Like, that's pretty simple.
Yeah, that's where we both align. And I think it's probably the most important principle. When we were chatting on the phone last week? Or in the last couple of weeks anyway, I thought it would be awesome to get back on here. It's been 3.5 years since we've had a chat. And as we've discussed, a lot of stuff has happened for both of us, where both have grown as individuals. Our opinions and perspectives are probably more solidified and strong in certain areas, but beliefs have changed maybe in other ones. But what we wanted to do was come on here and discuss a few topics that we feel are going to be extremely helpful and you'll be able to resonate with, because a lot of people experience imposter syndrome.
Absolutely.
And struggle with self-doubt. And I guess because we hadn't planned anything, let's just roll with it. But for me, I was journaling the other day. Do you journal, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a big journaler, I know.
Yep.
So I was journaling the other day, and within the last month, I've really dialed in on it. And it's been, if not more important than reading for me at the moment.
Yep.
Because I'm getting so much from it, and I've taken a different approach as to why I do it and what I'm looking to gain from it. And for me, it's really, I'll just blabble for the first paragraph and then something will come up, and it's generally something that's stressing me out, something that I'm curious about, something that I don't understand. And then I'll just ask myself a question around that and I'll just write.
Awesome.
And as a result of that, I've found it's helped my podcasting, it's helped me with coaching, but it's also helped me be better in life, because now, rather than having, I guess, opinions and beliefs in my head, I'm formulating how I'd like to talk about them. Yeah. Also, then the next day I'll always do the opposing view. So, for example, last Monday, I did one on why are there so many weak men? And then I was like, well, that could be just in a certain environment. So I was like, the next day, why are there so many strong men? And went through that, which was awesome. But as a result of going through that, I realized on one day of journaling, I've been hiding behind doing a lot of charity work. So every year we do, the Row for a Bro, or we've done the 12-hour challenge, or the stand-up paddle, Movember paddle challenge. We're always doing stuff for Movember and various other charities, which is awesome because they do great work. However, I felt like I do that because I'm afraid to just talk about the good work that I do.
Absolutely.
And so for me, I was like, it's perfect timing to talk about imposter syndrome and what that feels like. And even though I'm doing the work, and I've been doing the work and when I say the work, I've been working in coaching for a number of years, I still don't feel like, I'm waiting for that. Or maybe this is what I've created is just been luck.
Just bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mate, it's such a common thing. So I do, like, the advantage for me is age, like 20 years older than you, 21. Oh, I'm 52 this month.
That I go on. A day or two, though.
Yeah, I don't look a day for 51. What I've found, the older I'm getting, the more solid I am in how I think. And I do a lot of like high performance stuff with CEOs or, got a couple of clients that are worth tens of millions of dollars. And I sit with them. One in particular is a fantastic guy. And I sit with him and talk to him. He's got, mate, just unbelievable amounts of money, success. And he's hanging on every word I'm saying. And most people, most clients, get a lot of value out of what I say, like no doubt similar to you. And I often sort of walk away from that. In the moment in the conversation, it's very intuitive, like I'm following my gut, and I love it. Then I walk away and I go, oh, why'd you say that? Oh, you're a dick. He's going to think you're an idiot. And it's that very normal insecurity and fear about being judged by someone else. And I recently had a conversation with one of my clients, and I said, what's your biggest fear in life? And he's a very, very, very successful guy. And he goes, you won't work with me anymore. And I laughed because I thought he was joking. And I said, no, seriously. And he goes, no, that's what it is. And I was like, why? He goes, you're honest. You've got great knowledge. You can read me really well. You give me tough love when I need it. No one else in my life does that. So you go from that imposter syndrome thing, similar to what you're talking about with yours. I think when you have that natural, if you're on that process or the journey of trying to be better, then you naturally never think you're there. And if you don't think you're there, there's an element of doubt and fear, which is good because it keeps you humble. But it can be really run out of control if you don't keep a hold of it.
Yeah, if you're not aware of it. And that's, I think you can sit there and dwell on it and you can go, I've been, for me, and this is how I talk to myself. I'm like, you've been a little bitch. Like
100%.
You've been hiding behind all these charities, or not so much hiding behind it, but deflecting attention. Like,
sure.
Even when I do it, I never, I'll get up and say, thank you. We have Ray White sponsoring us or this or that or Movember. And I never mention the Man That Can project. Sure. Like, what am I doing? And for me, rather than just going and beating myself up and going, you've wasted all these opportunities, within 24 hours, I'd organized an event that is purely about, putting the Man That Can project at the forefront and what we do, because I do believe in it. I guess one, maybe I hadn't really been aware. I was like, I'm doing the right thing by raising awareness, men's health, mental health, all of these things. But I often overlook, and I feel it's definitely something that a lot of people do in their day-to-day life. When you're just moving at 100 miles an hour, you rarely take the time to acknowledge the great stuff that you're doing. And it doesn't mean you have to have your own company or anything like that. It could just be, you might be a fucking incredible husband or mate.
Absolutely.
or you've bought someone a coffee for the day, all these things that you can do well, but we're just on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing.
And mate, it's that whole thing of, I do a similar thing. So it's only recently that I've started to, put on social media when I do keynote speeches or different things. I was at the Army recently at Soldier Recovery Centre, and I put just a photo up, and it was actually a couple of years old because I'd forgotten to take a photo on there. Standard. I do it all the time.
Yep.
And then I had another keynote last week that I put up, and the response is unbelievable. People are reaching out to me going, hey, I didn't know you did that. Can you come and speak at our thing? Can you do this thing? So you help more people. But it's that fear and insecurity and that self-doubt part of going, I don't want people to think that I'm self-promoting. I don't want people to think that I'm trying to sell them shit. But the reality, especially what you and I do, mate, if you're not prepared to stand up and put yourself out there and cop some criticism, some people will go, I don't like who you are. You're just doing it for yourself. It's about your ego. And my opinion is fuck them, in the sense you're not going to make a big impact and help a lot of people if you're going to try and keep everyone happy. And I have that battle in my head constantly.
Yep.
I'll put, I do ice baths and stuff. I'll put my ice bath on my Instagram or training or something. And to me, it's to try and inspire people. And I get messages and emails the same as I'm sure you will that say, hey, so glad you put that up there today, or so glad what your podcast episode was today, because it kicked my ass and it got me moving.
Yep.
But then I'm putting it up there going, is this just your ego? Are you just putting this up here because you want people to think you're cool?
Yeah. Well, you can go down that rabbit hole of overthinking things, right? From that place of ego, why am I doing that? And I've got a challenge coming up, and I sat there and thinking about, am I doing that purely for ego? But it then also comes back to, as you said, you post the ice bath to inspire things. And I try to share as many of the things that I do, or people I get to speak with, etc. One, to make people aware of alternative things out there, because my goal with getting people to take ownership for shit, if people aren't aware of things, and a lot of the stuff that I do now, I was not aware of when I was growing up, and I wish I was. So if someone can follow yourself or myself and see an ice bath and go, what are these lunatics getting in an ice bath for? But then they read the caption, or they keep coming back and they see why we do it, or maybe they give it a go for themselves. They can go, that was life-changing. One simple thing, and it might keep them away from, medication or, context for this, for anyone who's going to fucking blast me for talking about medication. But, there's many things that you could try for the right people. Obviously, different levels of people need various medications, etc. But if, ice baths, if you aren't checking out your lifestyle, your physical health, your relationships and various things like that, and if you aren't rating them or reviewing them, then that's a good place to start for getting yourself under wraps.
Man, two things you said there I think is really important. I've got a guy who is a police officer who's been reaching out to me on Insta a bit. He reached out and goes, what ice bath do you use? And I go, this one, this 560-litre chest freezer, this is how I do it, blah, blah. So then he sends back like 2 weeks later, I got one, this is what I'm doing. I started at 12 degrees. I said, stop being so soft. I said, I did -2 today.
Yeah.
Now I've worked up to it over a long time. And he goes, that's too much. I said, don't be soft, mate. Just push yourself. So then, 3 weeks later, so he sent me 2 or 3 messages, and then he's like, I'm down to 0. And I'm like, that's epic. He goes, I feel amazing. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because instead of going, good job, just stick at it. I go, don't be soft, get on it, mate.
You need to be challenged.
And then I had another guy I spoke to, like having had PTSD many years ago, and the clinical definition is you can't cure it. And I go, but I absolutely cured it. And I've got a guy I used to work with who's a very hard guy, a little bit older than me, who I spoke to recently at an event. And he said, how's your PTSD? Talking about medication and taking responsibility. And I said, doesn't exist. Cured it. He goes, I didn't think you could cure it. I said, well, I fucking cured it. And he's like, oh, yeah, mine's no good. And I said, why do you think that is? Oh, I don't know. It hasn't been any good for a couple of years. I said, you're 20 kilos overweight. You're smoking. You're drinking like a fish. I said, are you on medication? Yeah. I said, are you on antidepressants? He goes, yep. I said, what's it say on the side of the fucking box? He goes, don't drink alcohol. I go, mate, no wonder you feel like shit.
Yeah.
I said, you're not taking responsibility for the basics. I said, I love you, brother. You're a great guy. That's why you're miserable. And he was like, oh, yeah. Now, obviously, in whatever period of time, no one's been that straight up with him.
Yep.
But you can only do that if you are very honestly doing all the things you can yourself to live the best life. Doesn't mean you're perfect. Doesn't mean you've got there. But if I'm telling you to do something or a client to do something, I'm doing it. I'm not going to say to you, oh, look, you should really do ice baths. You go, do you do it? Nah, it's too cold. And
exactly.
The insecurity imposter thing, when you were talking before, really clicked for me was there's so many people who do a version of what we do that are full of shit, that are so full of shit, in my opinion, where they're like, it's all about whatever, burning incense and happy clapping and whatever. And they're people that from the appearances, and I could be wrong, but from appearances, they don't look like they're doing the work. It's all about the hype. So I'm so concerned of people not listening to the message or what I've learned in 20 years because they can write it off as hype. Because if you give someone an excuse, they take it. So that's a whole lot about my imposter stuff, insecurity. Yep. And I don't want to lose that because it also keeps me humble and keeps me always looking at myself going, how can I be better? Instead of being some egomaniac going, killing it. You should be lining up, I'll sign your shirt.
Yeah.
That's I think in a nutshell what it's all about.
Why do you think we doubt ourselves?
I think, mate, you and I particularly, knowing you pretty well and knowing me very well, is because you've come from a world of, for you, it was elite sport. For me, it was, elite policing, as wanky as that sounds. There was 43 guys in the dog squad out of 6,000 when I joined. It was pretty hard to get into. So when I got in there, I was like, what am I doing here? So you sort of get at that point in whatever those things are. And then for me, certainly, and I'll presume the same for you with footy, you're thinking, once I get that, I'll be happy. And when I got there, I wasn't. So then there's this whole doubt about, holy shit, what's it mean? So I think that's where the insecurity and fear comes from. But it's a basic evolutionary biological response for us to keep us safe. Because if people judge you harshly as cavemen and women, you got kicked out of the tribe, you died. That's where that comes from.
Whereas now we literally have no consequences for not challenging ourselves enough. You think about it, it's funny. So I've only just started Googling this because I heard it 3 times when I was in Melbourne on the weekend, and they call fat white corporate men soy boys.
Oh, like from soy.
Well, I'd never heard it. So I was like, what do you mean by that? And then obviously I've jumped on the internet yesterday just to do a bit more research about it. And so obviously it's a toxic phrase.
Yeah.
But it sums up some stuff pretty well. And when we talk about like strong men or weak men and how you want to view that, obviously it's all unique to the kind of lifestyle that you want to live. Sure. But I feel like there should be some basic standards around, having the ability, if someone were to break into your house or steal your missus's handbag, could you chase after them if they were a good athlete? Like for 5K, do you have some basic standards, but also looking at strength physically? So when blokes are generally big, strong, burly blokes, in other areas, they're generally not as strong, right? They're weaker, like financially,
totally,
spiritually, mentally, emotionally. So they can't be vulnerable and they lack there, right? And it's always been one or the other. And then you've got the flip side, the guys who are extremely wealthy or whatever, but they're what these guys were explaining soy boy to me as, but I just call lazy and overweight.
Yeah,
where
soft.
Dad bods soft, right? So they're not strong physically, or maybe not even mentally and emotionally, but financially they're there. And then you've also got, I guess where you're alluding with the happy clappy stuff, guys who I guess are spiritually strong, but maybe not so strong in other areas like physically,
totally.
Financially and stuff. And for me, even just thinking about that yesterday and reading up, and I've still got a lot more to go, so context around that has to come, but that'll come shortly. It's like, why can't we have that complete man? And when I say strong, it doesn't mean you have to bench a fucking 100 kilo.
No.
But
stupid if you don't.
Yeah, of course. Like, really, honestly, don't walk into my gym. No, but you're looking at like, what are those standards for you? Like, what do you accept as being strong? What is something that's slightly outside your comfort zone right now.
Absolutely.
Like having that level of vulnerability with your partner or your mates, that's, to me, if you can do that, you're strong. What about financially? If you can support yourself through the hard times, even like things that are going on right now, floods, etc. Like so many people, or you might get this a lot, is like, I can't afford that.
Yeah.
And I don't accept that. I don't tolerate that, because there was a point I literally pulled my license plate out when I was Uber driving. So before that, I found it when I was looking for the adapters. Yeah. I was like, fuck, I'm going to do a post about this after. But I couldn't afford shit when I was doing that. But I was doing that, listening to podcasts, networking to get myself into a position, because I always knew that I wanted to take control of my finances. Whereas to me, a weak man is someone who's just accepting it as is. And once again, strength is, I guess, having your finances to a point where it allows you to do what you do and look after your family or friends or whatever, right? So the number is irrelevant. It's contextual, right? And then obviously mentally, it's like, how well do you regulate your emotionally, how well do you regulate your emotions and all of that sort of stuff? I used to be extremely weak with that. I'd snap and trigger, and don't get me wrong, I'm still working. We were talking about that before. I'm still working about that, but it's building strength there, right? Like, what do I need to do to flex that muscle? Because the more we do it, the stronger we are. And so for me, it's thinking about, as an individual, as a man, what do you want to be? Like, how do you want to show up, and what is your definition of strength?
And mate, I've got a very simple one, right? So we talk about alpha males, and it's become a toxic terminology. You know, we talk about toxic masculinity and all these sort of things, which I just don't accept in a blanket sense, because I think for me, as a middle-aged white guy, I'm the enemy, like in so many ways. And I think my thing as an alpha male, it's a 95-5 rule. 95% of the time, you're loving, emotionally connected, you are caring, you will do anything to help anyone. 5% of the time, you will slit someone's throat, just not get blood on your shoes if you have to, for whoever that is, to protect other people, to protect yourself, for whatever. If you and I were walking down the street and you saw some guy grab a woman and pull her into a garden bed, I'm not ringing triple O. I'm jumping in that fence and fighting.
We don't have time.
Right?
Like,
and that I think...
Because what would happen now, just to throw... Like, most people pull their fucking phone out and film it.
And when I look now and you think, knowing a fair bit about policing, you know, and the way it is at the moment, and that's another conversation, but police are scared to act in a lot of ways.
Well,
body cameras, phones, everything. Like, I get it. But I look at it now and just think, I was walking, Rach and I, my partner and I, do 5K walks most days and do CrossFit, do whatever. So we're just walking near where we live. And as I was walking down the street, I saw a dog van. So the canine unit I was in, one of their vans drive down the street, and it had its lights on. And I just text one of the guys just randomly, young guy I didn't work with. And I said, "Are you on a job in Bulimba, in our suburb?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Wow." I rang him. I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "Mate, 2 stolen cars. They just crashed into an innocent person's car. One guy's going to hospital, one ran." I said, "Oh, where do you run?" And he said, "Oh, in the back blocks of Oxford Street." So what's his description? I said, "Rach, we're going on a different walk." And like, so we walked up and down the streets, because I'm going, if I can see this guy, he smashed into someone else, whatever else, I'll grab him.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I haven't been a police officer for 13 years. There's some stuff behind that, but that was 20 years ago. Like, I'm an old guy. I'm an old man in most people's world, but I'm like, I'm fit, I'm healthy, I'm strong. I'll be going, "Hey, mate, what do you think you're doing?" And if hopefully he has one look at me and goes, "I don't know if I'll be able to outrun him or if I'll be able to fight him, because I'm not 20 kilos overweight. Like, I'm not a soft soy boy, got no idea what I'm doing."
Yep.
So, and that to me is part of it, because I think men are getting weaker because we're scared to be judged as toxic.
Yep.
We're scared to be judged as violent.
Yep.
But when good men get weaker, there's only one type of men that get stronger, and that's the shit ones.
Yeah.
So I go, when I was a young guy, many years ago now, I remember getting pulled up by the police, for instance, when I was 17, right? It was late 80s. My dad was a very well-known cop. I got pulled up for racing someone. Like, it was so innocuous. They pulled me up. I was applied to get into the police. I had a couple of girls and a friend of mine in the car. And I was terrified, because I go, "Oh, this could stop me getting in, you know, blah, blah." It was my lifelong dream. So this cop gets out, and in my memory, he's about 12 foot tall and 400 kilos. He was a monster.
Yeah.
And I get out of the car. I'm 97 kilos now. I was like 75 or something back then. I was a skinny little kid. And he gets out and he looks at my license and goes, "O'Gorman, are you in relation to Bluey?" Is my dad. And I'm like, "Yeah." And I must have got cocky. I go, "Oh, yeah, that's my old man." And this bloke just, boom, just backhand me, just belted me, split my lip, knocked me over on the ground. And I'm crying. "Oh, I'm sorry. And he's like, "You," and he's just absolute every bit of language, "You weak effing," just going on. And I'm like, "Oh," and I look back now and go, that was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant, because for years, and even still, I was driving along today actually, and there was a police car behind me, and I was like, "Oh," Oh, yeah, no drama.
Yeah.
But I remember that. When I was you would have been the same around footy. If you got too lippy, someone smacked you in the mouth.
For the oath.
Now, violence isn't the answer to everything, but it's an answer to some fucking things.
It's consequence, right?
Toxic men, it's the answer to.
Yeah, and I think when you think about what a consequence is, King hitting someone that's a completely different act of violence. But I feel like, I got the amount of fucking wooden spoons I got broken over my ass as a kid. Like that was a consequence of being a little shit.
Yeah.
But I also understand my parents did that, not because they enjoyed doing it. I'm sure they didn't, or if they did,
it was a secondary motivator.
Yeah. But they did it to teach discipline because they wanted to create character. Right. But within that process of, I guess, being whacked and then coming back from that, I was building strength, I was building resilience, and I was also sort of learning the boundaries within that household.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think that can be put into a bigger scale, right? Environments at the moment, the way I see the world is we're trying to get 7 billion people to live under the same blanket of rules,
mate,
or beliefs.
Be the same person.
Yeah. And it's not fucking possible. You can't even get for anyone listening to this, go home. If you've got 2+ people in there, see if you've all got the same beliefs, opinions, and understandings of the world.
Absolutely.
You fucking don't.
No.
And it's you try and change someone in your household's opinions or beliefs on something. Also, it's going to be met with resistance. And if you don't know how to communicate effectively, you're probably going to have some disagreements. Right?
Totally.
And once again, if you don't know how to regulate your emotions, you're probably going to get yourself in a bit of hot water there. So the fact that governments and I guess organizations and all these things are trying to get people to believe the same shit and act the same way is ridiculous.
And mate, it's a simple. I went and did a keynote for the Housing Industry Association down at the Gold Coast, 120 people at a brekkie last week. And the amount of feedback I got that go, like people email me, can you come to my company and do this? Can you do that? And the leadership and culture stuff I do, and they're like, you're just no bullshit. Well, like bloke emailed me today. Loved your presentation. Best thing I've seen ever. Was so positive.
Yep.
And it was 30 minutes and I had a presentation, but I hardly ever follow it. And it was just, it's just a broad, guide.
Yeah.
And he goes, I just loved your no bullshit approach. It's so refreshing.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm just honest. Like I go, if you want your life to be better, take fucking control of it. If you want your relationship to be better, take responsibility for it. If you want to be fit and healthy, do the work. And I said to them, there's one word that's the answer to every problem you've got in your life. What is it? And they're like, emotional awareness. Is it this? It's whatever. So it's work. Whatever it is, do the work.
Yeah.
And the thing that I think is really challenging at the moment is if you have a narrative that's different to the woke, left or whatever you would call it, but this whole cancel culture woke sort of mentality we have at the moment, if you have a different opinion, Joe Rogan's awesome. Like I love Joe Rogan. I think he's epic.
So do I.
Watch him they can't cancel him, which is brilliant. But they tried.
They fucking tried, all right.
And I'm looking at him going, people don't like him because he gives different opinions on different things. He's passionate. He's one of the few people I see in any form of media that will actually go, oh, wow, you're right. I was wrong. I'm changing my opinion on that. He's brilliant. But people take snippets of one thing, and I often think, like I've done nearly 2,200 episodes of my podcast, right? Yep. And I go, you could easily go back through that and pick out sentences that make me look like the most evil, misogynistic, narcissistic, whatever human being.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, because it's out of context.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop me, like we were talking about before. It doesn't stop me going, I give my opinion on things because that's what I don't want to be vanilla.
Yep.
But that is the challenge when it comes back to that doubt and imposter syndrome and all of those things.
What do you stand for?
100%. People are scared to stand strong. Everybody wants to look the same, like everything, look the same, talk the same, do all the same, drive the same cars, all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, my opinion is, and here's a question for you without notice. How many people do you know that are really happy, like really happy in all areas of their life? So you go physically, financially, relationships, confidence.
To be honest, I wouldn't even say I am. I think it's a continued work in progress.
For sure.
And I think when I pursue another area, I sacrifice something else. And so it's like this constantly. And I think I'm happy with where I'm at, but I think there's...
But you want to improve.
Yeah.
But that's different, right? But I go, because I would say you're happy.
Yeah.
My impression is you're happy.
Yeah.
And I mix in that sort of circle. But I would go, I'd be lucky to be able to actually give you 10 people.
Yeah.
And you and I are probably in very skewed environments because of the work we do. If I look at normal society, I asked this of so many
Well,
crowds.
most people probably couldn't even say what is happiness.
100%. Totally. So I'll say the majority of people. How many people do you know that are really happy in these areas? And maybe one person out of 100 might put their hand up. And I go, so here's the thing. If 95% of people being, I think, generous, mediocre and unhappy or miserable, depending on the scale, then why the fuck do we all do the same thing? So my driver now is 95% of people aren't that happy. I'm going to do what the 5% do. So, and that for me is the Jocko Willinks or Joe Rogan's or whoever. So ice baths, sauna, whatever. I'm starting jiu-jitsu next week. Like I'm 52 years of age. I'm going to start BJJ. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm nervous and I'm scared. I go, I'm old. Oh, well, I hurt my shoulder. Will I bust my knee? I'm like,
it's part of the process.
And I'll be 62 and have a black belt in BJJ. That'll be epic.
Yeah.
So I go, I want to live like the 5%. Now that's financially, but that's not my main motivator. Like I'm not overly worried about money. When I live a really good life, impacting people, being a good partner, dad, like everything, that just looks after itself. So, and I put effort into it, the same as you. But I go, why are we all trying to live this version when 95% of people over here are fucking miserable? Just makes no sense.
It blows. Yeah, honestly, it blows my mind. I was talking to a client the other day who's like, I want to earn $500,000 a year. I was like, okay, why? Because then I'm going to have more money to invest in things and do this and do that. And I was like, so what are you currently investing in? He's like, I don't know. I was like, well,
what are the things?
If you have more money, you're going to blow more money because that's a fucking gambling approach. If you don't invest in yourself or even understand what you want to invest in, you can invest in things like property, crypto, stocks, small businesses, yourself, like all of these things.
Absolutely.
And yet people just go, in order for me to become financially free, because they don't look any deeper into it. In order for me to be financially free, I have to have a house. I have to earn a lot of money because that's wealth. That's not wealth. That's cash flow.
Absolutely.
And as soon as you stop, the cash flow stops. So if you have a high outgoings, for example, and you're relying purely on your salary, what happens when you want to slow down and spend time with your family? What happens if you're completely unhappy, like mentally and fat?
Absolutely.
And you want to work on that and you have to slow down at work. Well, then that financial side of your life is going to suffer. So the whole point of going back to you rise to the level of your investment, for me, it's always going, as I was saying before, when I focus on one area or a couple of areas of my life, the others don't get as much time, right? Which means they recede a little bit, but they don't go to the point where they just don't exist. Like I'm never going to be.
But do they recede? So if you've got 5 things, or do they just stop while the others grow?
Well, they just,
because I'd say, knowing your personality, they wouldn't go backwards.
Yeah.
You're not going to go, I'm not paying as much attention to my health and fitness, and then you're on the bag every day.
Yeah, no.
Like that. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That will probably just, things grow at different rates.
But it's just being aware of what's going on in all of those areas, right? Like, so I know what's coming up for me over the next 6 months. It's going to be heavy physically on my body, which means I'm going to spend a lot more time recovery and sleeping, right? And also eating, which means therefore I have to have better systems in place in my business. I have to be planned for the next 12 months. I have to also understand the risk of injury, all this sort of stuff that's going on. But I also have to have the conversations with the important people in my life, like my wife, family, Definitely. To be like, look, this period is going to be fucking intense. Chances are I'm going to be very moody. Chances are you're not going to, I'm not going to be as social and all of these things. And I need to get the buy-in, right?
Absolutely,
because
mate.
Taking ownership is understanding that if you're committing to something, there's going to be, when you commit to anything, you sacrifice something else, right? And that doesn't come without consequences, like we spoke about before. And it's not always a punch in the face. It could be a disagreement.
But it can be a metaphoric one.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going, okay, well, if this is really something that I want to commit to, what conversations do I need to be having, and what's the plan that goes with that?
Absolutely.
Because there's going to be sacrifices and potential strains, and obviously there's going to be pros and cons with everything. So am I aware of that, and am I prepared to accept that? Because what happens is people commit to stuff all the time, and they haven't given it a second thought around and then what it's going to impact, and then 2 days later they say, oh, sorry, my they'll come up with some bullshit excuse like, oh, my wife said I can't. Say, you never probably asked her, and as soon as you broached
and the thing for me, mate, is it's and this is, I think, a bit controversial, but I look at things and go, guys who go, oh, happy wife, happy life, do my head in, drive me insane, because I think that's one of the most disrespectful things you could say about your partner. So Rachel and I, and Rach, like she's very driven, does a lot of high performance stuff. She's amazing. Her and I have that conversation where I go, I want to do this thing. She'll go, yeah, cool. I'm not interested in that, but you do it. I go, cool, no dramas. And whatever it might be. And it's little things like I bought a motorbike recently and just bought like an adventure bike.
Yeah, nice.
KTM. But it's like I've had Harleys. I've done all that. I'll get that. I'll be happy, like Harleys and all the bullshit. Yep. I've got a good mate of mine who just bought the same bike, but a brand new model. It was like 34 grand or something. Mine was like 8 grand. It's like 15 years old. It's got no ABS, nothing. It's raw. I love it. It's the best thing I've ever bought because I bought it because I'll enjoy it, not because I'm trying to get something out of it. Now, when I went to buy that, I said to Rachel, I want to buy a bike. She goes, yeah, what are you going to get this? She goes, yeah, better than we were when we met. That's an instant walk away, get out of jail, free card, walk away, right?
Yep.
Now, it's not because of the weight, but it's because of who would you become. We're both pretty fit and healthy. We both look after ourselves. If I was to put on 10 kilos and be 108 kilos, there would be a whole shift in my mentality around training and looking after myself and different things. But her and I talk about this sort of stuff all the time. We don't agree on it all the time. We've had 3 arguments maybe, in 9 years. And they wouldn't have made the semi-final of a Saturday in my marriage, right? Because we're just very respectful. But it's a communication piece and it's the you know who you are piece. Now, 52 years of age makes it easier than 31. But I think what I love about guys your age now, they seem to be like you are, a lot more on that path of going, well, who do I want to be there? How do I get there?
We've had the opportunity to see, right? Like I think you've done better than the generation before.
Oh, absolutely, mate.
When we say better, it's like, the world was different then. So everyone was doing the best that we could with the information that we had and everything like that. But we live in I think one of the most exciting times ever.
Absolutely.
You know, the fact that we can run businesses from wherever we
phone.
Yeah. And like there's all these things happen. Yeah, the phone, it's brilliant. But all these things that are happening, which are allowing us men to be more vulnerable and be more connected with children, or our children and our mates and all that sort of stuff, which brings a whole new element to life, like that spiritual connection, which is incredible. We then start going, that's just as fulfilling as I thought it would be earning $1 million a year. Maybe I don't want the $1 million a year. Maybe all I was craving all along was connection. Or all of these things. So it's such a cool time to now, I think that we're experiencing it and we have access to listen to like podcasts like this or all these people and hear their opinions and perspectives. And that's why it's so important to go back to what you were saying before, that people should be allowed to talk about what's on their mind and challenge things, because I learned so much through that. And when you get new ideas, you can go, I disagree with it, but why do I disagree with it?
Yeah.
Is it because I just had a bad day and I wasn't ready to listen to it? Or is it because fundamentally I just completely disagree with that? And it's, if that's their opinion, I want to understand how they've got to that opinion so I can understand more. Whereas people just write them off, slag them off, and just get enraged by it, that there's no opportunity for growth.
And it's a simple thing. Look, I reckon I've got a rule that I live by all the time, which is I don't take criticism from someone I won't take advice from. So if I'm not going to listen to your opinion for advice, then I'm not going to listen to it in criticism. And with the advent of social media and all of those things, obviously gives everybody a platform. That's great, and it's not so great.
Yeah. Because
some moron in his mum's basement who just hates the world can punch out as many vulgar comments as he wants. I still believe most people think like you and I. Like I think the great majority of society are the silent majority who aren't outraged or whatever by most things. And you've got a very small, let's call it 10%, who knows, of society that are outraged by everything, and that's their identity.
They're vocal.
So they keep the 90% of people who actually believe the same things, look after each other, be a good person, live as who you are. Like you and I are different people. There's no way in the world that if I lived your life or you live mine, it would be all of what either of us want. And that's okay. Then my relationship might be different to yours, whatever. But we've got this thing where everyone's got to be the same. Like I look, and know you just got married, right? So I always think this is really interesting. I look at it and go, we don't even challenge marriage. And I know you would have, but most people don't challenge marriage as what's it mean to me, in the sense of going, you're 30, 31, got married at 31 or 30? How old?
30, yeah.
30. Got married at 30. So the rest of your life is potentially 70 more years.
Yep.
Now, when that technology of marriage came about, that was 500, 1,000. Yeah. Your life expectancy was 30.
Yeah.
So you meet someone at 17 or 15 or whatever. So you might have
15 years.
15 years.
Yeah.
Like you can put up with anyone you hate for 15 years if you have to, right? So I'm joking. But you go, now at 70 years, you go, well, what does that mean in the essence of like 7 decades of my life? Are we going to be exactly the same people? And you're not unless you work hard at it. And that to me, we don't even look at basic things like that. You look at all of these things that I think these days we just don't challenge enough because people are too scared to go. Even as I'm saying that to you, I'm like, oh, I hope I don't offend you or someone else. And I've got to catch it and go, well, it's not offensive. It's just a new idea. And if we're not talking about shit.
And if it doesn't challenge someone, like you need to, like for whoever's listening, you need to be challenged.
Absolutely.
Like everything that you believe up until this point, the opinions that you have, they should be challenged and you should seek the challenge because two things are going to happen. You're either going to change your opinion, which is completely okay, drop the ego.
Absolutely.
Or you're going to solidify your belief. But if you go in with an open mind that you're okay, like I'm always happy to be challenged, even though sometimes I might be burning on the inside. I'm like, but I also know deep down I'm going to learn something, or like I said, I'm going to solidify my belief. Both are great wins. And unfortunately, a lot of people can't drop the ego. They just can't get to that point. And because of that, we're not having the progressive conversations that we're having. Like I think about like what's currently in a lot of the science textbooks that they teach, or just not even science, just a lot of the stuff that people are learning at university is fucking so old school compared to, you can get some incredible people who are literally have the results, right? We go back to taking action, what we were talking about at the beginning. There's a lot of people who theoretically are doing stuff. But if I think about sports scientists who've never been into a gym in their life and they come out and go, righto, I'm going to change the game. It's like, theoretically, you might be a wizard, maybe the most incredibly smart individual. But if you can't get me to implement it, or if you don't know how to actually implement it in the gym, you're fucking useless. 100%. Like in that field, like really you are. You're as good as me having all those books on my bookshelf and not actioning what I read. So for me, there's so many brilliant people now, and social media has literally people who don't have credentials, but are creating life-changing results for people that, I think about that knees over toe guy at the moment.
Yeah.
What he's done, obviously he's self-taught in everything, but he's like the most incredible guy for knee rehabilitation work now from just stuff that he's taught himself, which is mind-blowing. But a lot of people with traditional mindset thinking are like, nah, what are your credentials, mate? Are you a physiotherapist? Are you an exercise physiologist? And obviously it's important to ask those because you could get a complete dipshit. But if you've got someone who can say, hey, look, I'm self-taught, but look at these results that I got. And these are legit. You've got testimonial.
But that's what you and I are, right?
Yeah.
100%.
And for me, I'm like, well, and I think that's one thing that sort of sits in the back of my mind. I'm studying positive psychiatry. I fucking hate it. Honestly, I really don't like it. It's the most boring shit of all time. My computer's just started Dropboxing. But it honestly is. A lot of the stuff that I'm learning, I'm like, okay, I can appreciate that for what it is. That's good if you've got a whiteboard and you're trying to work out something. But for the average person if you're trying to help people, they could not give a flying fuck about what this principle is or law is. They just want to feel better. That's why they're there. They want to understand something about themselves. So a lot of the stuff that I've been learning with psychology, I'm just like, this is redundant and I'll never use this.
So are you doing a psychology degree or what's
positive psychiatry? Yeah. So it's a 3-year thing on but like I'm really struggling to do it. But going back to why I got onto that, talking about that was because in the back of my mind, when people go, what's your credentials? Like working with.
Is that why you're doing it?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Purely because of that. But I don't enjoy it and I don't see myself using any of it.
Well, I thought seriously about doing a psychology degree a few years ago. And I got my dad's got 15 brothers and sisters, so I've got 1,000 cousins. 50 good Irish Catholics, had no TV. So I've got, cousins that are doctors and OTs and lawyers and all sorts of things. And my uncle, my dad's brother, his youngest brother, he's only 15 years older than me. I was really close to him growing up. His kids are all doctors, barristers, whatever. And they were like, you really should do a psychology degree to give you that extra credibility. And I was like, yeah, no, you're right. No wonder I hadn't thought about it. And I'm like, why? Because for me, now I'm not criticizing psychologists at all. My youngest daughter said the other day, I want to do psychology. I go, awesome, babe, that's fantastic. For me, I go, where the power for me is a lived experience around mental health and stress and cops and a million different things. What I've learned, and it's all education. Like I've talk about investing in stuff like tens and tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on my own growth. And I've learned so many things around neuroscience and all sorts of things. But I don't need someone to give me a piece of paper which also then puts me in a box to go, you can't share your personal experience. You can't do this. Like there's a whole lot of also constraints around that.
Which is ridiculous.
Which I'm like, the reason that I'm effective in what I do is because people can relate to who I am. And like my Dark Companion that I wrote, I've got people who reach out to me women who are hairdressers from fucking Canada, people who are nothing like me, who go, oh, that's like you wrote my story, because it's all the same thing.
Yep.
Now I'm like, I got to the point, it took years to just go, two things. If you don't like me and resonate with me, a piece of paper is not going to change that. I'm not your guy. And the second thing is, if you need a piece of paper before you listen to what I say, well, you're not going to fucking get the results anyway, probably. So go and talk to someone else. You're just not my person.
Yep.
And I've been a lot stronger recently going, not everyone's going to like you. And I'm stronger and stronger in the way that I communicate and what I do. And it's funny, I'm less aggressive, use less language than I used to, because I'm just becoming a lot more confident and solid in who I am and what I do.
Yep.
So I'm just really now to go, I am who I am. If you resonate, great. If you don't, that's okay. But I'm not going to fuck around. So I just think we have so many, it's again, trying to make people fit boxes. But you go, for you, I know the work you've done and how many people you've helped. You go, why do you need a piece of paper? All that does is waters down is probably not the right phrase, but impacts what you're doing in a way that it's good to learn new things for sure. But you go, do you need a 3-year uni degree when you're already doing the thing?
Yeah.
And that's.
Yeah, I've definitely given that a whole heap of thought.
Of course.
It's purely like I aligned with this company a couple of years ago, and they were there to champion what I was already doing, right? And then the moment that they want to slap their brand on my stuff, it's like, okay, well, you can't talk about that because you're not a psychologist. And in the beginning, I was like, why would you want to partner with me in the first place when this is what I've been doing for the last 5 years? But then I was like, oh, maybe that's something that I do need. But, I'm 12 months in, and
or they're not your people.
Yeah, well, exactly that, because I just don't enjoy it. And it's so, from my experience, once again, so far disconnected from what I believe has helped me get results and has helped the people who have inspired me and helped me the most are just people who are fucking congruent.
100%.
And that's what
authentic.
That's why storytelling for me is so powerful. And when people can tell it well, and that's why vulnerability and attention to detail and all that sort of stuff can really change people's lives. It's going back to like sharing what you honestly do on social media.
Absolutely.
Because if it makes someone aware of something that could potentially have a positive impact on their life, that's a win. But if you get, I saw the other day that the TGA or FDA, whatever, are not allowing influencers to promote supplements and all of this sort of stuff. I'm like, okay, that's fine if they don't use it. But there are some people out there who are legitimate users of their product, and now you've taken away a way that they can make a revenue from it. Because everyone still needs to survive at the end of the day. So you then got ads on TV that are saying all kinds of shit, and then it'll be really fast spoken at the end, or if you read the fine print down the bottom, and you're like,
sponsored by Pfizer or whatever.
How can they get away with that? There's so many questions to ask that don't make sense. So for me, that's why I love listening to podcasts. I love following people on social media, because you can tell if someone's congruent or not. Because if they're there in 3 years' time, they truly, like, what they do, one, has a long-term benefit. Two, they are consistent and they truly believe in what they're doing, because there's people who come into all kinds of careers who are there for a second.
Oh, absolutely.
And they may be able to hype or market well and get people excited, but it's like, all right, you're doing that, but then you're pissing off and you're on to the next shiny thing. And that's what I think is frustrating in a lot of fields, but it's for people out there listening. It's like, when you're looking to improve areas of your life, one, find people who have the results that you want, like legitimately have the results that you want, not just say, just because they're a business coach or a life coach or any sort of coach or a real estate agent, property portfolio manager, like, do they really have the results? And then go back and see their history, because everything's online now.
Yeah.
Now you've got 2,200 podcast episodes.
Exactly.
Go listen to 2,200 podcast episodes if you want to make sure that Shaun's committed. You know what I mean? Whereas some people have 3 months, and don't get me wrong, everyone's got to start somewhere. I understand that, but that's where the grunt work comes in. How committed are you to achieving what you want? And if you're there for the right reasons, you will be here in 6 to 10 years' time plus.
And I've got like people reach out to me all the time now going, hey, can we collab with this? Can we do this? And I'm like, no. Most of the time, no. Now there's one company, a friend of mine is an ex-special weapons cop. Went to Iraq, did a lot of pretty cool stuff. Has got a friend of his is a Navy SEAL in the States, and he's got this, and I won't say what the brand is yet because I haven't used it, but this thing that's great for longevity, immune system, anti-aging for guys my age. And that's like a natural HGH type thing, but it's all natural products.
Geez, you've left us on a cliffhanger there, haven't you?
Perfect. I'll have to come back. I'll tell you. Yeah. Now, I was messaging with the people yesterday on Insta, and the guy goes, "Oh, look, we're aligned. We love what you do. They've been following my stuff for a little while because of this friend of mine." And they go, "Hey, we'd love to collaborate with you. We'll send you some of our stuff for a month. Use it, and then let us know what you think." I'm like, "Absolutely."
Yep.
Now, I won't say a word about them till I've used it. And if I use it and I go, "No, it's not my thing," or it doesn't resonate, I won't do it. But I'm really careful because I think there's so many flashes in the pan, and you and I, even in the little world that you and I met in, there's a couple of people who were doing a version of what we do who just disappeared. And no judgment on them, but I'm like, they weren't committed for the long run. And when I look at their behaviors, like you and I have both been, slogging away on this for a long time. I've been doing this for fucking 10 years. And it only started bringing an income into me.
I've still got more grey hairs than you.
Exactly.
What's going on?
I colour mine.
Yeah.
So that's not true. So I go, like, it's been, like 5 years now, or almost 5 years I've been doing it full time. And it was only in the last sort of, I was earning great money in a corporate career, but I hated it. I wasn't fulfilled. And that took, now I realize, courage to leave that. But it was because I fucking hated it. And I'm like, I'm earning similar money now than I did back then. And that will increase because I'm having a bigger impact. And I love what I do now. I caught up with a guy that I knew in the police who's quite senior in there now. And he said, "Mate," he goes, "I love your business model." He goes, "It's the best thing ever." He goes, "I'm actually jealous." He goes, "To be your age, our age, doing what you're doing, got another 30 or 40 years of this shit. And it's just, the world's your oyster." I go, "That's so exciting." But it took 20 fucking years, and most people just don't have the commitment. At your age, looking at my age, if I said, "Hey, Lockie, dig in literally from your age now to 52 and you'll be then really starting to hit some success," you'll be like, "What the fuck?" Most people don't have that commitment. And I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, my next phase of life is 52 to 70. So I'm training so I can be as fit and healthy as I am at 70. Everything I'm doing. So when I hit 70 years of age, that's old as fuck for most people. I go, vanity, drive, professionalism, everything in my life. I go, I want to get to 70 and people look at me and go, "You are the hardest motherfucker at 70 I've ever met." And the competition will just drop away because people lose commitment. And I go, imagine what I can do from 70 to 80 then. What can I do from 80 to 90?
Yeah.
And I'm looking that far down the road. At 52, I will absolutely live till I'm 110. And I've decided that 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm like, I've got 58 years to live. What's a rush? Like, you've got 80 or 90 fucking years to live.
Mental, hey, to think about.
Because you go, so my daughter's generation, who are like 17 and 14, they go, won't be unusual for people of their generation to live to 130.
That's so,
right.
When you yeah,
it's mind blowing. But what do you need to live a long life? I go, there's a few things I'm going to need. A great basis of health and fitness. I've got that, but only in the last 10 years. Before that, I treated my body like an amusement park, right? Drank, drugs, whatever. Now I go, you need a baseline of health and fitness, a good, healthy lifestyle. You need to be positive. You need to be focused. You need to do the work, and you need resources. Because if I'm going to get to 90 and there's this epic brand new technology that helps with longevity that's going to buy me another 30 years, then you need the coin to be able to get it.
And you think about that. Imagine having 30 more years with the people that you care. Or just
100%. Like, my biggest problem is going to be outliving my kids and the people I love. Like, in all seriousness, I reckon I'll get to an age. So I was 35 and 38 when my kids were born. If I'm 110, like, obviously that their generation, I imagine.
I'm just thinking of you like Gandalf right now.
Oh, I don't know what that is because I'm an adult. No, I'm joking. So it's, but you just think it's that, like, people often say to me, like, I'm ADD as fuck. I know I'm a very obsessive personality, but I go, that's now an absolute superpower because I focus it on cool shit, not destructive things. Yet we go and if we got kids with ADD or whatever, we go, let's medicate them. I'm like, don't fucking medicate them. Teach them how to use it. It's all this way of thinking that most people don't.
Yeah, we want to fit them inside a box, like, straight away.
It's insane. And you think for someone your age or someone my age, I've got at least as long as I've been alive to live again. That's a fucking long time.
You think about what you've achieved in the last 10 years.
Absolutely.
It's mind-blowing. Like, it feels like it has gone fast. Like, I feel like the last 10 years has flown by, but also when you sit down and think about it, man, we've jammed some stuff in there.
Yeah.
So like the next 10 years, the next 20 years, like the compound effect of the baseline that you have right now, it's so exciting. And that's why for people, you just need to start.
Absolutely,
Like
mate.
legitimately just start, and 10 years time, you'll be in a completely different position. And if you focus your attention, going back to what we were saying before, like what do you want or what makes you happy? If you're unclear on what that is, get yourself out a notepad now, set a 30-minute time on your phone, put your phone away from you, pen and paper, and just write down things like, well, what do you want? So what do you want to feel? What do you want to experience? What do you want to own? What do you want to?
And I think it's even simpler, right? I go, if you don't know what you want, look at the shit you hate and write the fucking opposite thing down. Like, if you're broke, go and want money. If you're fat, go want to be healthy. If you've got your relationship sucks, I want someone who loves me.
And then create a to-do list, right?
Totally.
Because then from those things, just go through and tick it off. You're either going to go, fuck, I really enjoyed that, or no, I never want to do that again. Cool. And through those experiences, you're going to have a greater understanding of what you want more of in your life.
And here's a simple process I do with my clients, which I don't think I've done with you. 2 minutes, let's do it.
Do it now?
Do it live.
All right, let's go.
So pick 3 words, 3 adjectives that describe who you want people to talk about you as in your eulogy when you're 100 years of age.
Oh,
3 words.
Empathetic.
Yep.
Oh, empathetic and caring.
Similar.
Yeah. Let's go.
Can I give you one?
Yeah.
Courageous.
I just finished Courage is Calling.
So yours are very similar to mine. So I go, mine are to be a connected, courageous and powerful person. So do they resonate? Do those 3 words resonate with you? Right. So, and most people's wouldn't be the same, but we're similar personalities, I think. So then all you do for you guys who are listening to this, write down 3 adjectives and you want them pretty simple. So when you go empathetic, I go caring's great, connected's right, whatever. And they've got to be emotive. So you put those 3 things down and then you write I am a at the start of it and leader at the end of it.
Yep.
So you go, I'm a connected, courageous and powerful leader. Sounds wanky as fuck. But you write that down and go, that's who you are. And then the second thing is work out what your purpose in life is, right? And that's the big question everybody gets so caught up on. What's your purpose in life in a sentence?
My purpose in life right now is to live, love and laugh more. Super simple.
Awesome. So what does that give you?
Fulfillment, meaning. Like every day I get to get up and make sure that I'm doing that. It's like living. What does that look like to me today? Well, today it's doing this, but tomorrow I might be going for a surf, laughing more. It's like not taking life too serious while because, as I said, I'm so motivated, but if I can laugh more through the stuff through, obviously as business, there's days where you go,
nothing's that fucking serious, mate.
Fucking hell. Yeah. And love, like to me, it's vulnerability. It's like when we have children, learning to be a great role model partner, but even to my mates, like just show people love, because rather than just trying to be this tough.
So how often do you say to friends of yours, yeah, I love you, bro. I love you, mate.
All the time.
Me too.
Well, text, XXs.
And it's weird, right? Like people think it's weird. I've got a mate of mine who's a special weapons cop, does CrossFit with me. Funny dude, 10 years younger than me, just loose ass, great guy. And every time we'll try and go and have a coffee in the morning or whatever, he's very ADD, loose like I am. We'll walk out and he'll go, love you, bro. I go, love you, bro. Hug him in this cafe. And you see people go like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
But I go, most phone calls with mates of mine, that's how I finish it. I go, love you, mate. Yep, love you too. And when you say it first, I have not had one guy go, how fucking weird are you?
Yeah.
Because we all want that connection. So when you come to the simplicity of purpose, and that, like yours is, I love yours, mine's to help people and have a positive impact.
Yeah.
Which is me first and then everybody else. Because if you don't look after you, you got nothing.
Yep.
Okay, when you've got, what was yours? Live, laugh, and what was the other one?
Live, love, and laugh.
Live, love, and laugh. So when you go, now you're a courageous, connected, and powerful leader is one level of filter. So it's got to match that identity and it's got to fall into live, love, and laugh.
Yep.
If it doesn't match that, don't fucking do it. So it's a very simple thing. Mine is to be, courageous, connected, powerful leader, have a purpose to help people and have a positive impact. If I'm driving in the traffic, like on the way here, and I'm frustrated, I got the shits today. I told you about some personal stuff that's going on in my life that was frustrating me, out of my control. As I'm driving here, someone was driving slow. A couple of people annoyed me, and I straight away go, "Oh, I'm really on edge."
Yep.
Because I normally couldn't give a fuck.
Yep.
And it's pretty intrinsic in me now. But for a long time, I would just go, if someone cuts me off and I'm about to get on the horn and go, "What the fuck are you doing?" I go, "Is that being courageous, connected, and powerful? And is it helping people, making a difference?" No, don't fucking do it. But most people, and I think most men, definitely don't know who they are or what they're doing. So then how do you make a decision? How do you plan what you want your life to look like if you don't know who the fuck you are?
Exactly. It's going back to that. You think long term, it makes short term decisions easier.
Absolutely.
Which is, once again, if you don't take the time to do that, like if you're always too busy or keep saying, I don't know where to start or I don't know, it's like, all right, well, enjoy that for the next 70, 80, 90 years of your life. It's so much more fulfilling when you wake up knowing what you want to achieve, knowing how you want to show up.
Like, and it's simple shit. Sleep 8 hours a night, eat clean food, train 4 times a week, meditate, journal. If you're not doing those 5 things, that's where you fucking start. Yep. Like, it's because that's the foundation to everything you want. If you go, I'm not going to worry about that, but I really want to earn $1 million in my business. Why? Because if you're not doing that, you won't get that. Or you might get that, but everything else will be destroyed.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's simple, mate, but I think, again, you come back all the way to what we started with, the imposter syndrome, fear, doubt. Most people look at the old, you're the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? I look now and go, who do I spend the most time with? And it is Joe Rogan's guests, Jocko Willink's guests, like all these other guys that are ex-Navy SEALs in the States who I just love the way they operate. They're all very successful business owners. They're very loving, caring men, but they're strong men. And I go, they're the people who I surround myself with.
And that's a cool thing where you touched on there. I was waiting for you to say people in the local community, but like you're
it's global.
Yeah, like the fact that you can listen to podcasts, like if you really enjoy someone's content or you resonate with someone, just like if you can't get access to them for whatever reason, just absorb their content. They're in your corner. Like totally. if you want to have a board of directors for your life, build 100%. Them and just read their books or listen to their content or listen to their podcasts. It's like they're there anyway. They might even not know it, which is the cool thing about life. And so for me, I have people I aspire to be like from a family point of view, from a health point of view, from a business point of view. And there's some, not all the traits I want, but I just take what I want. And
absolutely,
rather than just going, nah, if they did this, I'm dusting my hands clean. You've just given away all the other gold that you've gotten from them.
Oh, look, like Gary Vaynerchuk is one, Gary V, who I was mad on for a couple of years, and I haven't watched any of his stuff for ages because I got out of it what I wanted. His message is brilliant, but I got what I wanted out of that, needed, so I moved on to other people. So I'll go through phases of particular podcasts, books, whatever, and then I take what I want, and then I move on, and you build your own, books, whatever.
Yep.
Like I've 2,200 podcasts. I go, there would not be many people who've listened to all of those because the premise of it is pretty similar.
Yeah.
But there's people who certainly have listened to a few hundred and they go, I've listened to 5 of your podcasts a day for the last year. It's been amazing. And then I hope that they grow through the stuff I do onto something else.
Yep.
Because that to me is the whole purpose.
Exactly.
But it's the reason that I go to podcasts and books of other people to find the people if I find inspiring is because if you keep growing and you keep evolving and you keep challenging yourself, the people generally that are around you, 95% of them are unhappy. Back to that stat. If only 5% of them are really happy, then there's probably only 5% who you want to be like. And once you get to a point, you will outgrow some of that.
Yep.
That doesn't mean you leave them out of your life, but I'm not a person now that will ever stop. I don't ever see me getting to a point of going, oh, this is it, and I'm happy.
Yep.
Right? I'm happy on every step, but I go, what would I do if I stopped?
Well, what
would I do?
You think about that, like even if, for example, you ended up with 300 million and you like the idea of just going, I just want to retire. I already think though, if I did that and I got into surfing or I already surf, but if I did that or, mountain biking, I would then want to be the best at that. Like that's where I'd go. It never stops. I can't ever envision a life for myself where I'm just going to sit down and drink cocktails. And that just to me sounds like the most boring way to live.
And it depends on who you like. Me, are you a golfer? Do you play golf?
Rarely.
Yeah.
I enjoy it if I'm hitting it well.
Yeah. So like golf does my head in. I'm like, worst sport in the world because it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
But I go, if other people love it, knock yourself out. But use that normal analogy. I go, if I won 50 million, if I won the 120 million last week, did you buy a lotto ticket last week?
No, I don't buy tickets.
Me either. Why?
I just don't. I'd put the money into myself.
Yeah, because I'm not, and this is what I love about you, and that's why we get on so well, is I'm like, if my whole goal in life is to spend $20 or whatever it is to hopefully win 120 million, when there's another 18 million people in the country who've done that, that's just a hope.
Yeah.
And hope's not a fucking strategy.
It's gambling.
So I looked at the other at 120 and part of me was like, I should buy a ticket. Then I deliberately was like, no fucking way. Because I'm not going to, that's not my future goal. And what's that telling me? That that I can't create what I want.
Exactly.
That someone's going to give it to me.
Yeah. And it's the same thing, like people buy it for a thrill, and I understand that. But I'd say for me, a thrill is fucking going surfing or doing, putting myself in an uncomfortable workout or whatever. And
Definitely.
each to their own. You do whatever works for you, but obviously I know what I want. I'm very clear on what I want for my life and the strategies that are going to get to there. And for me, it's like if I put $20 into that, or I could put it into, because I put that $20 into an investment.
Absolutely.
Not a gamble. And so that's the way I like to live my life. And that's, that works well for me. It may not work well for other people.
And the key, and I challenge you and go, that works well for everyone.
Yeah.
But we get watered down to go, I better not say that because it might upset someone.
No, but it's also like,
it's not your absolute version of life.
Yeah.
But the one thing you said in there that is universal is you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You live your life becoming uncomfortable. So why am I starting to do BJJ? For a couple of years, I've been like, I should do it. Oh, but I might get injured. And I've been through this whole process. And I got to a point the other day, I was going, just fucking do it. Because everybody that I look at this phase of my life that I find impressive does it. And they love it. I'm like, well, if they all love it and that they're the sort of people I'm aspiring to be similar to, or that's who I see myself in, go fucking do it.
Because imagine if one day you met them and they're like, let's go for a roll.
100%. And that was one of my motivators.
Most people's default is let's go to the pub.
Yeah.
If you keep feeling healthy, it's like, fuck, bro, let's go for a roll.
Absolutely.
Easy. Awesome.
Because I'm not doing it to fight in the street because I'm like, I haven't had a fist fight for freaking 20 years. Now, I was in a job where it was really violent. So I had a lot of I was fighting a lot. So I go, if I had to fight, I could probably handle myself okay. I would be if I had to throw hands, I failed dismally and trying to diffuse it or walk away, whatever anyway. I go, so it's not because it's self-defense. I go, it's really uncomfortable. The first time I go there, I guarantee you when there's some 18-year-old young guy or girl that chokes me out and I'm like,
humbly,
awesome. Because I live in, and I'm curious if you have this experience, I live in this echo chamber now. Most people I engage with me because of what I do.
Yep. Same.
So they love what I say. They're people who resonate with me. I don't have a lot of people, I don't have anyone in my life that hates me and goes, you're full of shit. So a lot of the conversation that I get back is, yeah, you're amazing. That's brilliant. You're so good. Thanks so much, blah, 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 which I love. But I don't listen to the positives because I don't listen to the negatives. And you can't listen. So I live in a world very much now where people absolutely either think similar to me or whatever. So very, very similar people to me. So I'm really conscious of going, everywhere I go, everybody I talk to is like, tell me more about what you think because I think it's great. So I'm so careful to go with my obsessive personality that I don't start going, fuck, I'm pretty amazing. So what I do now is try and find environments like, whether it's BJJ, whatever it is, experiences, different things to challenge me to go, what do other people think? Listen to other people's content, do whatever that is. But it's being uncomfortable. It's ice baths. I've got a sauna at home now, it's saunas, ice baths, training, whatever. And I sat down the other day to try and work out how I'm going to fit in BJJ, still do CrossFit a couple of days a week, 2 or 3 days a week, and it's going to be full on. And I'm like, cool. I don't drink. I don't go out. That's what I do.
There now. Yeah.
But, whether it's simple stuff, people will message me and go, oh my God, how do you do ice bath? Oh, sauna's hard. Oh, I wish I had your discipline and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, you can have, because I never used to be this version of who I am. I've built it.
Yep.
Same as you.
Yep.
So for your guys, it's all about, if you're not doing something every day that makes you uncomfortable, especially emotionally with vulnerability in your communication, physically, then you are literally getting smaller and you're becoming less significant, less powerful, less amazing in your life. And that's why most men get to my age and they're fucking pathetic because they're 50, they're fat, they look at themselves and go, my marriage sucks, I hate my job, my kids don't really talk to me, all I've got is 4 hours every weekend to go and play golf so I can escape or whatever that thing is.
Some escaping.
And it's just be uncomfortable.
Mate, that's been a fucking awesome chat. Oh, fuck, what an episode of intros. I almost feel exhausted just from that.
Let's roll with it, mate.
Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure, brother.
Pleasure.
Always is. Always is.
We'll have you back on after you've been sampling that HGH stuff.
Get all over it. Tell you what it is.
Well, this episode is 3.5 years in the making, a very exciting one. So Shaun O'Gorman is jumping back on. We used to run a Facebook Live series together called Young Bull, Old Bull. And this was, 3.5+ years ago. And we're both coaches. I'm specifically in the men's space, Shaun in the leadership space, which is awesome. But we were having a phone call a couple of weeks before we jumped back on here for an episode, and we were just chatting about some things that we had similar beliefs about, and I thought it'd be awesome to get back on the show and have a bit of a yarn again. And what we discuss in this episode is creating clarity for your life, being a strong man, men's coaching, honoring commitment and being a man of your word, and so much more. So as a men's performance coach myself, I'm committed to having these conversations because I believe that they will provide perspective and understanding into what's really going on for men out there. And I'm 2 days post doing our 12-hour walk, which I'll do a podcast episode on with a few of the lads around our experiences with that. It was absolutely amazing, and we learned a lot about ourselves and also other members of our academy, which was brilliant. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that as well. It's not long until applications are open for the Strong Men of Value Academy. There is a wait list. So if you head over to the website, thementhatcanproject.com, and you jump onto the Strong Men of Value Academy page, you can read more about what's involved, how you can be a part of it, and also just leave your details there on the wait list so that when the application's open, you'll get an email allowing you to apply, so that way you can get to the front of that list, because as we speak about, it is hot in demand and the blokes are absolutely thriving after our 12-hour challenge and getting to meet more of the men. But as we've spoken about, you get your 12-week game plan. So the first 3 months of your time in the academy will kick off with a signature 12-week game plan, right? So then you get your weekly group coaching calls where you get to connect with the community, be held accountable, practice communication, talking about what's going well in your life, maybe areas that you're struggling with. Found by doing that, it really helps you gain a better understanding of what you want from your life and what needs to happen in order for you to be the man that you can be, okay? Plus so much more around building a strong mind and strong body. And I'm actually just on the website right now, and there's 7 days, 4 hours, 58 minutes until the next applications are live. So head over and get involved in that. That's enough from me. Let's dive into this incredible episode with Shaun. Thanks for listening. I hope you got a heap of value from that episode. Now, take responsibility for your life. Do something today that builds confidence, resilience, and betters your environment. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.